Hi guys, welcome to this video. This is another video for the World Builder add-on that we've been doing a lot of videos of lately. Get you up to speed where we're at. We've been doing a series of videos to set up the game ready for play. We've created a home hex, and then we've done a video for setting up the game and getting it ready with these generating hexes. So we went ahead and generated all these hexes, and then we've done another video showing you how to generate quest details. So if you haven't seen them, might be worth a look to see how we got to this stage. Now we're going to have a look at the calendar sheet and some of the details of the calendar. So what you have is all your actions that you can take during the course of the game, and the idea of the game is to explore this map sheet here and perform 25 quests in this area before moving on to another area. You can move on to other areas as you see fit. You don't have to complete 25 in the area, but once 25 quests have been completed in a hex sheet, you can't add any more quests to it, so you have to go off and explore another land. So right, so the calendar sheet, as we perform different actions like moving and scouting and performing the before your next quest phase, you're going to be burning through days on your calendar. So to move might cost you 5 days, and you need to check off 5 days on the calendar to move from there to there or wherever. Depending on the type of terrain that you're moving from will determine how many days it takes to move. So in mountains it's going to take a lot longer to cross a mountain range than it will say through grasslands, which we have here. To move to an area, it also has to be mapped as well, and there's a scouting action that you can do to scout an area that's adjacent and so forth, but we'll get into that in another video. For this video we're just going to focus on the calendar and how this works. So what you're going to be doing is, like I say, as you spend action points to do all manner of different things, we're going to be spending days on the calendar, and each day that you spend on the calendar you have to eat. So you burn one ration, you have to use up one ration that's in your ration box here. You can carry a maximum of 30 on your own personage, and as you spend a day you then deduct a day of rations as well. On the calendar there's these blue boxes that we can see here, and they have some very different things that you have to do on those days. So when you cross a day off on the calendar that's got a blue background, then what you need to do is check what you've got to do on that day. So we'll go through them one at a time, and I'll bring the calendar a bit closer so we can see what we're talking about. So we start off with the first of each month, and you'll notice the calendar is split up into 12 months, and I've cheated and made each month only 30 days. So whereas the traditional calendar will have 28, 30, 31 days, all of the months in D100 Dungeon have 30 days, and we did that so that each year begins on a Friday and ends on a Thursday, and so that we can keep using the same sheet over and over again. In our own calendar the days begin on a certain day and end on a different day, and you wouldn't be able to use the same sheet. So we've made this sheet as universal as we can, so when you've completed a year you can just grab another sheet and then carry on working your way through the months. So for the first one we've got 2 icons. One of them is a symbol of a cross, and that is for religious days. Every month there are religious days that are taking place throughout the world we're building, and there's a chance of a fairly decent sort of event that might crop up. So you need to roll on the event table, and you add plus you deduct 10 from your dice roll on those days. Then the next one that we come is the 10th, and it shows you quite see that on the 10th there. There's a day where you will have to check for disease and poison. So you make a disease and poison test just as you would in a normal game of D100 Dungeon when you're down in the dungeons and you mark off the last, you trigger the last clock face on the time track. You would have to make that poison and disease check, and you just perform it in identically the same way as you do when you're in the dungeon, when you're playing the World Builder phase. Okay, and that repeats on the 20th and on the 30th. So on the 20th and the 30th you perform those two as well. On the we've got the moon cycles marked out, and again they're not coinciding with our own moon cycles. They repeat over the course of a month to make it easier for us to play the game, if you like. So on the 11th it's a full moon, and you need to then, at the end of the day, after you've taken that action, is you need to roll the D100, and if you score 5 or less, then you need to refer to the werewolf event in the book. And so you would look up you'd look up the trigger word in the events section of the book, and you would then follow the instructions in the werewolf section of the book. Okay, and then lastly you've got the Satanic Days. So on those days you would roll for an event and you would add +10 to your dice roll. And I did forget one at the beginning. At the beginning of the first of each month, if you happen to have joined a guild, then there is a guild fee that needs to be paid each time. Okay, that pretty much is the basics of the calendar. There's a fatigue section here at the bottom. So as and when you decide not to rest during the course of a day, then you can suffer fatigue, and you might suffer fatigue for other things, like when you go off on a quest. And there's an action that you can take where you can rest up and reduce the amount of fatigue that you've got. And then there's the quest time track. So when you go off on a quest, you'll be shading in these boxes each time you complete 12 hours in your dungeon, and you'll be gaining fatigue while you're in the dungeon as well. So you've got some extra bits and pieces, but these will all become apparent as we explain a bit more of the rules and so forth. Each month there is a rations penalty or bonus. So if you happen to be trying to gather rations during those months and are successful, then you would apply these modifiers. And pretty much that's it for the calendar. The last thing that the game might tell you to do is to circle certain days on the calendar. So if it tells you to, say, circle a specific date, you circle it, and then you make a record of why you circled it on the back, and the event section gives you all the instructions that you need for when dealing with that. And then there's one more type of thing that you might need to do. You might need to place a arrow above the date telling you that there's an ongoing effect, and again the game will detail all that. That'll all be detailed on the back of the sheet here, and we'll look at that in a bit more depth as and when it crops up. But basically the arrow might say something like, when you're next in a settlement, do this or do that. And so when you start the game, you look for these arrows that have an ongoing effect. You look up what they are, and if you happen to trigger an event because you've done what it's instructed you to do, then you would then follow through with the rules from the events book. And again, we're going to that in a bit more detail. So that's the calendar. Like I say, when you're performing actions, each action point you cross off one day on the calendar and spend 1 ration point. Okay, so that's it for the calendar video. Thanks for watching, and what we'll do is we'll move on to actions in the next video and go through some of them and how they work. So thanks for watching.